Okay, Mike, 10 years ago. Can you believe it's been 10 years? I mean,
It is crazy.
it's crazy. The single largest tornado outbreak on record. Never thought what April 1974 would ever be surpassed, to be honest with you. So that was a day that you and I certainly will never forget. We were side by side in the weather center tracking storms for what, 9.5 hours straight?
9.5 hours straight on the air. It's interesting to think about that too, because being in the meteorological field, every single one of us in the industry always has at least one event in their lifetime that they're going to remember forever. And I'll tell
Right.
you what, I remember seeing the setup this days before, and this went down definitely as the single most, longest,
Right.
craziest meteorological day for me since I've been doing weather for over 20 years.
It was incredible. I mean, all the different cells that we were watching developing that day. And, certainly we could say the radar looked like a Christmas tree and all the cells
Mm-hmm.
were rotating, had potential spin up. Let's go back 2 days before because the atmosphere sort of waved a flag. I think it was that Monday, April 25th, didn't it?
Yeah, weren't we getting like large hail that day, I believe? And we saw some rotation and some
Yeah.
tornadoes a few days before, which I remember having a conversation with you. We're going, wait a second here.
Yeah.
Like you said, Mother Nature raising the flag, saying, "Hey, listen, the atmosphere is primed," and it didn't even take much the 2 days before the main event to even get anything rotating.
No, not at all. I mean, yeah, we had, I think there was a damage in winds, a straight line damage in winds. Storm system blew up near the river. UT Medical Center came across Kingston
Mm-hmm.
Pike, Neyland Drive, Kingston Pike area in parts of downtown Knoxville, and just laid down a bunch of trees. A lot of tree damage, and that was pretty significant. Yeah, and that was like 2 days before. So let's get to April 27th. Started in the morning, significant tornadoes just erupting, and you could tell early on this was going to be a significant weather day.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, yeah, I remember getting up and working that morning and being like, okay, we're on the day that we've been talking about for 4 days or so. We've been, all of a sudden now we're on this day, and trying to drive in the information on, at home on TV saying, everybody, you need to stay on top of the situation. And I remember I worked the entire morning show and I called you and said, I need a nap because I know I'm coming back in and I'm
Yeah,
going to work the entire afternoon. I believe we
right.
had one tornado warning earlier that morning.
Yeah,
And then
down in
I
the
came
Cleveland
home and I
area.
remember,
Yeah,
yeah, and I remember coming home that day and my wife was like, what are you doing? I said, I'm here to take a nap. I got to take a quick nap. I'm going to pack a bag because I know I'm going back to the station and I'm going to be there all night long. And
yeah,
I remember laying down in bed and, just I couldn't go to sleep.
yeah.
There was so much information, so much anxiety
Right.
that I had that day of what was about to take place and what was about to happen. I couldn't take a nap. I remember packing my bag. And then all of a sudden, I remember coming back to the station. And I think you were supposed to do the noon show for me to help me out. And I think we had then that's when we started to get,
Yeah.
that's when the tornadoes really started to fire shortly after lunch, I believe.
Yes, it really it did. I think we may have had a slight lull, and then after lunch,
Mm-hmm.
about that 2:30, it was all hands on deck. The rest of the afternoon and through the evening, it was incredible. Hey, I wanted to bring up this map that's behind my shoulders here, and I'll try to move out of the way. Here we go, like that. Look at yeah. You can't see it, but the purple. That's a high risk area that I think the Storm Prediction Center did a great job from Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Huntsville, right up to Chattanooga, Southern Plateau, Cleveland. They pegged that really well. Look at the red outlook area. So all those tornadoes were just coming up from Mississippi, Alabama, right into the Tennessee Valley and East Tennessee, and again with lots of rotation. I tell you what, one of the things, Mike, that stood out for me. Was later that day, the evening. I don't know if you remember, we were watching on the sky cams, some of the TDOT cameras, when we got those two significant large hail cores. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I think it was, over $50. It was basically racquetball size hail. On the interstate, you could see the leaves being shredded in front of our camera view, and 18 wheelers were pulling off to the side of the road. And that's when this like wait a minute, when do 18-wheelers pull off for anything? Number one, but large hail was just, this was in the Cedar Bluff area, Interstate 40, yep. And it was just absolutely hailing, and two incredible large hailstorms. I mean, it took years later for roofs and windows, et cetera, to be repaired. That was one of the most significant things I think I'll remember, in addition to the tornadoes, of how much large hail, people's siding, the roofs just got really damaged. And a lot of people, it came up to Interstate 40. North of 40, it was okay, but that was significant. By the way, we still have a used vehicle in our family, the Howell family, that still bears some of the dents and pings on the hood of the car.
Do you really?
It was our family vehicle at the time. The quick version of that is our son was at his girlfriend's house, now wife's, and they had a 3-car garage that was fully occupied. So couldn't get it in store. So it got a lot of hail damage on the car there.
Yeah, what takes me back too is I remember, I don't know if that was the actual day of that SPC, but like 3 or 4 days out, they were pegging this one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And they had it pegged pretty much with that high risk in the same spot, and then they just kind of fine tuned it as we got to the day of the event. But yeah, it's definitely an event that will always be talked about. I mean, for a long, long time here in East Tennessee, in the meteorological field. It's an event that they constantly go back and study. They've done lots of studies on it, the atmosphere and how it all played out. And it's one of those things where I kind of go back to the other week when we had that high risk around the area. Then we didn't get quite the activity. But, I think what's important to know here is that we had our viewership. We had the viewers, I think, really readily prepared for this event as it played out. I think that was one of the things that I think of most, is not only being on the desk with you side by side for 9.5 hours, but how we really helped East Tennessee viewers out.
Well, I hope so. And I'll say this personally, you did an outstanding job, Mike. You had your laptop here. We had our storm tracker here, and we were literally, I mean, the atmosphere, this is just how it was playing out. The storms were showing themselves up. It wasn't hard to pick out a tornadic circulation, what we call a TBS, a rotating cell. And so our Mike was tracking it over here. We were getting it on air over here. And it was hard to stay up with it because they were coming so quick and fast. But, and there were lives lost. Certainly, we're very humbled and reminded that this was a significant outbreak, and it was devastating in a lot of ways. It was, there were fatalities. There was a lot of damage. I tell you what, I hope, and we all hope that we don't see another outbreak like this again. I was looking at some of the statistics, Mike, and this kind of caught my eye that this was some of the most devastating tornadoes in terms of we've seen since 1936. Of course, we know about the outbreak in 1974. But, think about that. And that kind of caught my eye. 1936, so mid-30s, mid-70s, then that 2011. What is that? Roughly like 40 years apart on each one. I mean, yeah. I just kind of thought that was interesting about some of the more recent outbreaks. I say recent, but it's been a while. But, these are rare. You don't see these type of outbreaks that often that are that significant. And hopefully be another 40 years at least till we see another one. But I just thought that was interesting looking back in some of the archives there.
I think it was just it was a day that's definitely down in the record books. And do you remember the atmosphere? Do you remember walking outside a couple days leading up to it, and you just felt it? Like when there's severe weather, when we expect severe weather, it's a different feel to the atmosphere. It smells different. The bird, there's just different activity that I think Mother Nature in general provides during these kind of events. And it definitely had that days before. And I think I remember talking to you about that, be like, can you just feel the atmosphere? It just feels gnarly. Yeah.
No, you're exactly right. It's the atmosphere tips its hand. Oftentimes, you've got the high humidity, you've got the unseasonably warm air, the wind. It does have that smell, that sense that the atmosphere is capable of producing significant severe weather. So you could, You can certainly see that. But that was a day for the record books, no doubt about it. I know a lot of our viewers who are tuning in and watching this probably have a lot of their own stories and memories of where they were. Everybody, you remember where you were, right? Sir, a lot of folks, because we talked to a lot of our viewers who spent time in their basement, in their pantry, in their closet, with radios, weather radios, their phones. We didn't have smartphones then quite yet.
Yeah, we did. But I was going to tie into that, saying it's amazing how far we've come.
Right.
If that event were to happen today, the technology that we have with these things is so far beyond where we were even 10 years ago. And 10 years, doesn't seem. I mean, it seems like a long time ago, but it doesn't seem that long ago.
No, I know exactly. In some ways, I can take it right back to where you and I were tracking for 9.5 hours, and then, the meeting. Next thing I know, I'm eating a piece of pizza on air in front of the green screen. But it was a very long day.
That's right. We're trying to take breaks.
That was at the end of it. But it just seems like it was the other day. But no, you're right. The technology we have now, and we do always want to encourage people that when there is a threat for severe weather, to know where to go in your safe place. We talk about having a safe place in your home, your building. That's simply an area that's on the lowest floor, away from outer walls and windows, and somewhere you can take shelter and be protected safely until the storm passes by. And Mike, another thing you said, not only have the technology to get those alerts and information, but notifying family and friends and make sure everybody's safe and taken care of. And that's kind of the standard protocol that we want everybody to be very familiar with as we move through the spring and severe weather seasons in any given year, right?
Yeah, I think it's important to know too that if you move into a new house, as your kids get older, as your family grows, always know of a place to go. I think it's important to know that, we always try to teach, have a plan ahead of time, have your safety kit ready to go ahead of time. I think this is a great time. We're in spring. So here we are, right? I mean, it's been nice and cool, pretty quiet so far. For the most part, we've had a few, a couple tornado events already, but I think this is the time that if you're watching this, you have a family, you don't have your emergency kit ready. This is the time to get it ready. Make sure your kids are very well aware and familiar with the safe places in your homes.
Right.
And I'd love for everybody to join the conversation here below wherever we put this, and let us know exactly where you were. And talk. Let's get the conversation going, because this is a big year. It was a big event, and there were a lot of us still here in East Tennessee that made it through that event. Whether you were living here or in Alabama or Middle Tennessee, wherever it was, there's a lot of people that were affected. Millions of people were affected by this. So,
absolutely, chime in, join in the conversation. We'd love to hear your stories. And hey, Mike, thanks for taking a little bit of time out of your day. I know you got to get back on air. And I'm going to get ready for later in the day. How about this warm weather we're having right now? So we'll be keeping an eye on that in the days to come. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining me, and we'll certainly hope for a happy and safe rest of our spring.
Absolutely, buddy. Have a good day.
All right, you too, man. See ya.